how to make a cheap and simple rope bridge. Hi there and welcome to Good Enough Scenery, and I'll be showing you exactly how I made the smaller of these two little rope bridges in today's video. This was edited from a Facebook Live, hence the voiceover. So to begin with, well, that's what we're aiming for, the larger of the two, but in smaller size. And the base of this is going to be sprues. So all I did to start with was just measure the distance I wanted the bridge to be and find a couple of bits of sprue that allowed me to create this kind of very wide U shape. That's going to be the span of the bridge, and then about ½ an inch of upright. So nice and simple, and then you can if you want to, you don't have to do this, but just like trim off any bobbles and things that are on the edges of the sprue, but you don't have to. And that's that bit done for now. From there, you then need to take some lolly sticks. Now these had been painted from a previous project, but this is going to get sprayed at the end anyway, so it doesn't matter if they aren't sprayed first or aren't painted first. But I cut these to be about 3 centimeters long, and then I used a knife to split them lengthways. I do it with a knife because it gives you a lot more accuracy. I'll show you in a minute what happens if you do it with a pair of pliers, is it tends to kind of split along the grain, whereas if you do it with a knife, it you get a lot more of a clean cut, but ultimately it depends what you're looking for, really. So once I'd cut, I worked out I needed 10 of them. So once I'd done that, it was just a case of applying super glue down one edge of the sprue, and then I used the other part of sprue just to be rested upon, because otherwise they will end up at an angle, as my hand was suggesting there. So just putting these on, about the distance apart that they are wide, and then once it was supporting its own weight, just chucked a load of super glue on the other side, and then just attached that and allowed some time to pass before moving on to the next stage. Once you're able to do that with it, you can move on to the next stage, and it's more solid than you might think. Next up, we're going to take some, this is absolutely the standard string, wrap it around one end just a few times, and then loop all the way down to the other end and back again. And what you're going to do from here is take the end of it and then push it through the first slat, pull it all the way through, and then push it through the next one. So essentially you're doing almost like doing shoelaces, but all on one side. Just going through the hole, pulling it through, going through the hole, pulling it through. And then once you get to the end, looping around it a couple of times, and then you're going to go back in the opposite direction. And that ends up looking like this crisscross pattern on the side after that. Once you've done that, you can do exactly the same thing on the other side. So I'm not going to show you that in too much detail. Just loop it around or tie it around at one end, loop it from one end to the other. And this looping thing is so that the side of the bridge ends up looking a little bit more ropey rather than spruey. Now, in terms of how I'm doing it, there's like technique to speed it up. I'm lining my fingers up with the two slats it's going in between, pushing it through, and pinching it between my fingers, and then lifting it up and then pulling it through the other side. I'm not sure if it's something that needs explanation really, but I thought I'd include it just in case anyone was struggling with it. So that is both sides done. If you have any excess string, it doesn't matter. Right, the next part is using some string. This is the only bit of preparation I did for the live. Now this is string which has been soaked in PVA glue and left until it was dry, which means it's a lot stiffer. So I took a length of it, and then I'm just gluing one end of it, and then having the kind of, I don't know, the guy rope at the end, just tailing off. Now, if you have excess string, you can do it from, use that. If you don't, you can start a new piece of string. But what I'm doing is just weaving it over and under and round and under and round and over, not really in any specific pattern, but just making sure that there's string going on top of this hand rope thingy, handrail rope, hand rope, I don't know what it's called, that thing. So it looks like it's held on by that rather than the glue that is actually held on with. It's not necessary, but it's a simple thing to do. It's a nice touch. So it ends up looking like rope on top rather than the rest. And once you've secured that, you can just use any excess string just to go round and round and round the upright, and then get down to the bottom and then glue that in place with your hot glue gun. You can use super glue. I tend to find that super glue and string aren't particularly good friends. They don't tend to work very well together, but have to be happy to be proven wrong. and I'll show you in slow motion apparently what this looks like. And then I did the same on the other end, and then I did exactly the same thing on the other side as well, so that we had both ends had a, well, both sides had a handrail rope thing. If anyone knows what they're actually called, because it's not handrail ropes, then please let me know. It's probably something really simple that my brain just simply isn't thinking of at the moment. But yeah, that's the stage you want to get to. And that there is a perfectly good rope bridge. You don't have to do any more than that. That looks like a rope bridge. Everyone knows what it is. It's good enough. But you can go further, and that's what I've done in this case. So I sprayed it black and waited for it to dry. And I've taken some rather bright yellow paint, and then I'm not exactly painting the rope, but I'm kind of doing a very wet dry brush, a wet brush, if you will, knowing that the string is going to not take on all of the paint because of the texture of it. But I'm just going over all of it, not worrying if I'm going over onto the slats, but just trying to hit as much of that that stringy, ropey stuff as possible, to just try and give a bit of a different colour. And then I went on to painting the slats. And again, it doesn't matter too much if you paint over onto the rope here. I mean, what I did here was just to get my eye in a little bit with painting it, is that I painted the underside first, which could be seen as completely unnecessary. But if you have if you want to be complete with it, want to do something different with it, then by all means you can paint the underneath. And then once I've done that, I painted the top slats. So if any yellow paint that had got onto the slats, I was just able to paint over with the brown, and then it ended up looking a little something like that. Next, I took this filament style moss and just pull out some strands of it, and then you can just wrap it round in a couple of places, and no glue or anything whatsoever to hold it in place. It just seems to just snag on whatever you put it on. So I just wrapped around quickly there, and already I'm doing the worst magic trick in the world. So yeah, just took a clump of this and just began pulling and wrapping and twisting and winding it round the handrail rope things, which we're calling them. That's what they're called now, I decided. And just doing that on both sides until we was happy with the amount of overgrowth that was on it. And finally took a couple of different green colours and just did more of a dry brush than a wet brush with these colours, just to kind of grime up the overall look of the rope bridges, because that's what it felt like they should look like. And that was it. It's a bit time consuming, but it's basically free. And this is what they ended up looking like, as you have already seen. So if you're into this type of scenery, then please like this video, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for future videos, and leave any comments about anything you'd like to see me make. So I'll catch you for another Good Enough Scenery video soon.